Okay, so we will continue our Bible study on the life of Joseph. Okay, जो सप्ताह खत्म हुआ था बाइबल स्टडी उसमें हम लोग क्या सीखा? व्हाट वी लर्न, एकदम ब्रीफली यू कैन टेल. पार्ट 1 में क्या सीखा?
तो जिस पर दया करना चाहते हैं उस पर जरूर करते हैं, खुद करते हैं.
Okay, God doesn't leave anyone like that. The one whom he wants to show mercy, he shows mercy. Then, fatafata, we don't want to spend too much time in the recap.
He was blunt and honest.
Joseph was blunt and honest. वो कुछ छुपाता नहीं था, उसका दिल खुला था. एंड ही वाज ऑलवेज, वो जो बोलना चाहता था वो बोल देता था, कुछ छुपाता नहीं था उसके जिंदगी में. देन fast fast.
His brothers hated him.
There are others other than Ria also. Some people called Rachel, Raina, Onesimus. We can excuse John, he was not there.
Joseph was a dreamer and he dreamed 2 days.
Dreamer. Okay. जो सपना आता था और वो सपना सही भी हुआ, जो सपना उसने देखा वो आया सचमुच. देन
अगर हम एक विश्वासी हैं तो हमारे साथ कुछ भी मुश्किलें आए या कुछ भी आजमाइशें आए, हमें उनसे डरना नहीं है. हमें याद रखना है परमेश्वर हमारे साथ है, उससे भाग खड़ा होना है और प्रभु में बने रहना है.
okay, so we should not be afraid. Whatever circumstances come in our life, God is there with us and he will take us through. Okay, you have to be loud, huh? Because you should get picked by the mic. There are people on the other side. Yes, he is telling
He
you.
reported his brother's wrongdoings to his father.
Okay, he reported his brother's wrongdoings. We saw that something good that he did, and we'll see something beyond that today. We are still on the same chapter today.
God allowed the brothers to put in pits because he had a greater plan.
Okay, God had a greater plan. So there was a pit in which Joseph had to go. It was not a pleasant place. वो अच्छा जगह नहीं था जहाँ पे जानना था उसको, लेकिन परमेश्वर को जोसेफ का जीवन में और आगे कुछ प्लान था. प्लान को क्या बोलते हैं? योजना था. और उस योजना के अनुसार वो सही था जो जगह में जाना पड़ा उसको. जैसा डैनियल को भी लायन का पिट में जाना पड़ा. ओके, बट गॉड वाज विद हिम इन द सेम वे. ठीक है, we will just quickly recap. I have also written some points. Joseph's childhood was marred by his family. उसका परिवार के कारण उसका बचपन जो था वो खराब हो गया. ओके, उसका बाकी बच्चों जैसा उसका बचपन नहीं था. His childhood was not the same as what it was for others. Okay, yeah. We had seen 4 aspects last week. Just to remind you, we saw the background, how the people of Egypt settled. They were descendants of Ham, and they settled in the Nile Delta. Okay, we also saw how Jacob and Esau, याकूब और ईसा का बीच में उसको कैसा चुना गया था, we saw. Okay, and we also saw that this choice was not related to his salvation. Okay, God's choosing Jacob did not make him a candidate for salvation. God not choosing in that sense Esau did not disqualify him from possibility of salvation. The passage in Romans 9 talked about Jacob being chosen primarily to bring in God's purposes and the messianic line, or bringing in the Messiah, bringing in the word of God through that nation. Okay, we saw Joseph in trouble as a teenager. We saw some of the traumas that he had, and we also saw the mind of a teenager. Okay, that our brain has got, Onesimus likes it. Okay, brain has got 2 parts which we saw last time. Which were the 2 parts? Pre-cortex and amygdala. Okay, so we saw how a teenager's mind is influenced by these things, and we saw how in parenting we need to take care. I'll not repeat that. Those who have forgotten can go and listen to the recording later on, or even you can see the PPTs. Okay. Then we had seen very quickly 2-3 slides. May we'll recap just for us to have this impression strongly in our mind. The Old Testament is there in this green part, the Fertile Crescent from Genesis to Malachi. Everything happens within this green belt only. It is called the Fertile Crescent, and all the nations that came ruled in this area. Okay, whether it was the Egyptians or the Assyrians or Babylonians or Medes, Persians, Greeks, Romans, they all ruled this belt. Okay, it is called an empire when it ruled in this belt, and we can see there how Egypt, Cush and Put, they were children of um, and Canaan. They all settled in this area. Okay. Then we saw the purpose of Israel. We'll see it later on again. Okay. I think it's getting blocked. Is there some way you can move that? Because that box. This one? The black one especially, because it will keep coming in the way. Yeah. Okay, we saw this. इसके बारे में भी हमने देखा था. Okay, the purpose of Israel or Jacob, we had seen from the book of Romans. You'll have to click again. Yeah. Then we saw Joseph's character, what we had seen, people loved him or hated him. Diplomacy and tact was not a virtue that Joseph possessed. Okay. He was like an open book, plain and transparent. Okay. Then we could never have imagined, हम सपने में भी सोच नहीं सकते कि इजिप्ट का सेकंड इन कमांड वो बनेगा, राजा का सेकंड स्ट्रॉन्गेस्ट पर्सन इजिप्ट में बनेगा करके, इस रास्ते से, जो रास्ते से उसको परमेश्वर ने लेके गया. ओके. एडवर्सिटी और डिफिकल्टीज, तकलीफ, उसको हार्डन नहीं किया, यानी उसको कठोर नहीं बनाया. एंड प्रॉस्पेरिटी डिडंट रूइन हिम. उसके पास बहुत संपत्ति आया. ओके. और वो बहुत इस दुनिया में आगे पहुंच गया एज अ पोजीशन, but that did not spoil him. It spoiled so many other people on the earth. Okay, we had seen what Onesimus said about the prefrontal cortex and amygdala, and we had seen that the parents have to have some role, and we have seen that Joseph had ups and downs in his life, several downs, and his life, when you look at it in chapter 38, would look like that barren tree. सूखा पेड़ जैसा उसका जीवन लगता था. उसको भी लगा रहेगा, और कोई भी उसको देखता था तो वही सोचता था इसमें क्या फल आने वाला है और इसका फ्यूचर क्या है. लेकिन हम लोग देख सकते हैं कि जोसेफ का जीवन उसमें खत्म नहीं हुआ वैसा. ओके, नाउ वी आर गोइंग टू पार्ट 2. We are going to see some things. Jacob's dysfunctional family. हमने गया सप्ताह भी बोला ना कि परिवार जो परिवार जैसा नहीं चल रहा है, वो जेकब का एक परिवार था वैसा, और उसके बारे में देखेगा. जोसेफ का इजिप्ट को क्या बोलते, मिस्र देश में जाने के बारे में हम लोग देखेगा. सफरिंग्स जिंदगी में आता है और उसके साथ कैसा हम लोग कोप करना चाहिए, हाउ वी शुड कोप with suffering, and how God rules in history. इतिहास में परमेश्वर कैसा उसको आगे ले जाता है वो हम देख सकते हैं. The stone speak is about the proofs or evidences for Joseph's life in Egypt, okay, which we can see. So Jacob's dysfunctional family. Okay, हम लोग कभी भी सोचते हैं ना परमेश्वर का लोग उनका घर अच्छा रहेगा. Okay, we look at many believers also, and if we see a good believing family, सब कुछ अच्छा चलता है, then we like it. But the reality is that in many families which are in the purposes of God, their family lives are not necessarily good. Okay, God bears with those people, God deals with them, and tries, makes, gives them opportunities to come out of it, and He gives them the strength. But a lot depends on how much they cooperate with God. परमेश्वर के साथ उन लोग क्या करता है, वो बहुत important होता है. Okay, Bible paints a sordid picture of Jacob's past. याकूब के पास्ट बोला तो बीता हुआ दिन के बारे में. मेरा हिंदी गलत है तो करेक्ट कर देना, मेरे को जो जितना आता है उस वैसा मैं बोलूंगा. ओके, बीता हुआ दिन के बारे में बहुत खराब चित्र प्रकट करता है. ओके, जेकब उसका भाई को चीट किया, और वो 200 मील दूर वो दौड़ के जाना पड़ा उसको भाई से, भाई के डर से. ओके, नहीं तो मार डालेगा वैसा सोचता था. he had to flee. He did not see his mom alive again. Okay, what a tragic life, no? Jacob, chosen by God, but he couldn't see, and even he came back shortly before his dad's death. Okay, so many times we don't see these people's lives in a way that the Bible portrays it. Okay, परमेश्वर का वचन में काफी सारा डिटेल्स दिया है. आप जितना आप खोजोगे परमेश्वर का वचन में, उतना आप सीख सकते हैं. ओके, इन लाइफ देयर आर कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस टू एवरी डिसीजन एंड चॉइस वी मेक. जिंदगी में हम जो भी चुनते हैं, जो भी निर्णय लेते हैं, उससे आगे हमारा जिंदगी में कुछ ना कुछ फर्क होने वाला है. गुड और बैड, अच्छा या बुरा, हमारे हाथ में भी काफी सारा, हमारे एक्शंस बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है उसमें. ओके, उसका शादी के बारे में देखेंगे हम लोग. उसके पास वो 4 पत्नी था. he had married 4 women, Leah, Rachel, and their handmaids also, no, Bilhah and Zilpah. He married 4 of them. His affection for Rachel triggered a rivalry between the sisters. वो रेचल को ज्यादा प्यार करता था और दिखाता भी था उसका प्यार. इसके कारण लिया और रेचल वो एक्चुअली बहन थे, लेकिन उनके बीच में भी जो शांति था वो टूट गया. ओके, सो देयर वाज राइवलरी बिटवीन द सिस्टर्स एंड द पीस इन दिस होम वाज डिस्ट्रॉयड. ओके, बिकॉज of the favoritism which he showed. Children born to these 4 wives were also drawn into these conflicts. आप सोचो, 4 पत्नी था, वो सिर्फ नहीं, उनका जो बच्चे भी थे, ये लोगों का झगड़े में भी उनको असर होता था. The children also were impacted. Rachel was attached to her family. Rachel was attached to her family idols. रेचल को घर घर का मूर्तियां उसको बहुत पसंद था, और वो बहुत प्यार से वो संभाल के रखती थी. फाइनली जेकब गॉट हर टू गेट रिड ऑफ इट, बट रेचल for a large part of her life was fascinated by these idols. Okay, that is the first thing that I want you to think about Jacob, his past. Okay, difficult with his brother, with his own family, and getting married to 4 women. Okay, that is all in the background for Jacob's life. Parental partiality and the bias. Okay, partiality को क्या बोलता है, भेदभाव जो करते हैं ना पेरेंट्स, उसके बारे में भी हम देख सकते हैं. ओके, और ये ज्यादा करके जिन घरों में 2-3 या ज्यादा बच्चे होते हैं, उधर भेदभाव होने का संभावना है, क्योंकि एक ही बच्चा है तो वो तकलीफ होता नहीं है उसमें. ओके, Jacob loved Joseph more than his other sons. Okay, we saw this in chapter 37. So he gave him a gift. He gave him this coat of many colors. ये वो फोटो नहीं है जो उसने एक्चुअली पहना था, लेकिन आप याद रख सकते हैं, क्योंकि ये आगे का स्लाइड्स में आपको याद दिलाएगा ये कपड़ा. ओके, व्हेन वी आर लुकिंग एट आर्कियोलॉजी. ओके, एज अ रिजल्ट जेकब बिकेम एन ऑब्जेक्ट ऑफ हेट्रेड. उसके भाई लोग उसके साथ नफरत करते थे, और उसके साथ एक भी प्यार का शब्द उन लोग मुंह से नहीं निकलता था, क्योंकि ये भेदभाव हो रहा था घर में, परिवार के अंदर. Siblings were impacted by the partiality and the bias of their father. Okay. Jacob was repeating the wrongs which had created rift between him and Esau. जेकब क्या कर रहा था, उसके घर में जो हुआ था, उसके पेरेंट्स ने जो किया भेदभाव, वो भी चालू रखा था जिंदगी में. हिज फादर आइजक फेवर्ड ईसो. आइजक को ईसो अच्छा लगता था, पसंद था. मदर रेबेका को आइजक पसंद था. और ये पसंद के कारण, भेदभाव के कारण ये परिवार टूट गया, है ना. जेकब और ईसौ के बारे में भी झगड़ा हो गया था. द चिल्ड्रन बिकेम आर्च एनिमीज फॉर लाइफ. जेकब और ईसौ के बीच में झगड़ा उत्पादन हुआ और वो कंटिन्यू हुआ अंत तक. ओके. व्हाट विल हैपन व्हेन द पेरेंट्स आर डेड? जब तक पेरेंट्स जिंदा है तो फिर भी वो जो भी झगड़ा होता है उसमें कैसा तो भी बड़ा झगड़ा होने से प्रिवेंट हो जाएगा. कुछ तो पेरेंट्स का ऊपर रिस्पेक्ट रहता है उसके कारण. लेकिन उनके मरने के बाद क्या होगा? व्हाट विल हैपन टू द चिल्ड्रन, है ना, इफ दे आर फाइटिंग ऑल देयर लाइफ. वी हैव टू थिंक अबाउट इट. ओके. अभी सोचने की बात, पेरेंट्स के एक्शंस के कारण बच्चों को इम्पैक्ट होता है क्या नहीं. अभी 5-6 प्रश्न मैं पूछने वाला है, सोचो, और उसमें जहां पे आपको उत्तर देना है वहां पे उत्तर भी देना. ओके. कैन इट्स हॉरर्स हॉन्ट देम फॉर अ होल लाइफ टाइम? ये पार्शियलिटी जो करते हैं पेरेंट्स बच्चों के तरफ, ओके, कैन इट क्रिएट अ प्रॉब्लम फॉर द चिल्ड्रन फॉर अ लाइफ टाइम? डू पेरेंट्स हैव फेवरेट्स अमंग देयर चिल्ड्रन? 3 बच्चे, 2 बच्चे, 4 बच्चे हैं तो उनके बीच में कोई ज्यादा फेवरेट हो जाता है क्या? शुड पेरेंट्स मेक कंपैरिजंस ऑफ चिल्ड्रन? है ना, ये कैसा अच्छा पढ़ता है, तुम तो पढ़ाई ही नहीं करता है. ये कैसा कमरा साफ रखता है, तुम साफ नहीं रखता है. ओके. वी मेक कंपैरिजंस विद आवर चिल्ड्रन. हाउ डू पेरेंट्स एक्सप्रेस देयर फेवरेटिज्म विदाउट रियलाइजिंग इट? आप बता सकते हैं, मैं 1-2 उदाहरण बताया. हाउ डू पेरेंट्स एक्सप्रेस देयर फेवरेटिज्म विदाउट रियलाइजिंग? उनका दिल में उनको समझ में नहीं आता है, लेकिन दे आर शोइंग फेवरेटिज्म, और द चिल्ड्रन आर अंडरस्टैंडिंग इट एज फेवरेटिज्म. सब जन चुपचाप बैठा है क्योंकि सबको लगता है बोलेगा तो हमारा घर में होता है, ऐसा सोचेगा नहीं. यू कैन जस्ट टेल what you see in life, no? How do parents show favoritism? You must have seen it. Sometimes even got hurt by it. I have told no before, when people used to tell this is Stanley's brother, so it used to thoda mirchi lagta tha. Like that, you know. Why they are not telling Leslie's brother is Stanley karke? So, but children get affected. You know, there was one pastor who used to come to my house and visit. He used to pray for Stanley's brother. He couldn't pray even once, for he was the pastor of the Alliance Church I was part of for more than a year, and he could not pronounce my name. Okay, so I never got close to him. I'm not saying that is good. We should learn to forgive and adjust, but it had an impact on me. That way, no. Is there some things that you have noticed, you know, by which you can tell how parents express favoritism? अदरवाइज में नाम बोल के पूछेगा, इससे भी अच्छा खुद बहुत बता दीजिए. I am not telling you to use illustrations from your home. I used in my life का illustration. I am not telling you you should use from your classmates. Others also would have gone through it.
बच्चे सोचते हैं लेकिन ऐसा होता है
नहीं होता है. मुझे जेकब अकेला था इस धरती में जो पार्शियलिटी दिखाया.
कभी कभी ऐसा होता है, लाड हो जाता है किसी बच्चे में, लेकिन प्यार तो सबको एक ही करती है.
अच्छा, कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन है वो.
Like,
Good. Open up. See, then only we'll understand the topic. No, otherwise we will just. I don't want it to be just head knowledge, because these are things the Bible is teaching. Yeah, tell.
some children may weak, so we may feed them more, feed them more strong.
Yeah. Even nutritious things you may
Yeah.
find, which you may not give for other children, no? But the children may get affected by what they see. Is right. Okay. Or राजू भाई, आपका तो एक ही है तो फिर भी
Parents are not the same.
हाँ
Parents are not the same.
क्या
I have seen girl children were sidelined, boys were promoted. Girls were not given proper education. I am talking about my village, my neighborhood, what happened. Little bit in my own.
okay. So bias and partiality takes place in the home, even between boy and girl child. See, we must
Especially
recognize
last generation, when more children were there, it was there. They have done.
okay. Now I'll go little further. You can give more illustrations if you have. But my colleague at work, no, he was a general manager. He had a son and daughter. He did not put his daughter through post graduation. Okay, this is only two children. Huh? Brother was telling many children. As I'm talking of a person who had two children, and you know what reason he gave? It is foolish investment. वो लड़की तो लड़के के घर में चला जाएगा. You know, that is what he told me. And these are educated people working in big companies, but they treat unequally. Okay, it's not that they didn't educate because they did not have money, but he thought it was a waste of money educating a girl and sending her to another house. Okay. Yeah, you had any
In
other
Kerala, there's a, with the community from which we come, known as real Christian. They have dowry system. Then, suppose there are 5 girls and 2 boys. The girls will be married to very poor families, so they will ask very minimum
Yes.
dowry.
Yeah.
They go to families which are equivalent to them, then more dowry has to be given. Okay. These all, I have seen in even my relatives. They married all these girls to very, very poor homes. And all the wealth and other things they have kept for the sons. And finally, the daughter-in-law did not treat these parents properly.
Yeah.
That also
Happened. Okay, so partiality takes place even now. Okay, we must not say if we are living in a foolish thing in our mind if we are thinking that it doesn't happen. And if we think it doesn't happen in Christian homes, then you are deceiving yourself. Christians are also sinners. Okay, and we are also having the same kinds of weaknesses. We must be careful that we don't repeat it. There may be problems, but we must understand it and deal with it. How should they handle skill differences between children? Think about it. Your children will not be equally competent. No? One may study well, one may not study well. One may be good in singing, one may be just croaking like a frog. Okay. So there will be so many differences, but without making comparison, how we should live, that is the important thing. Okay. God created each child, हर बच्चे को अलग तरीके से बनाया. हम खुद के घर के अंदर भी किसी बच्चे को कंपेयर नहीं करना चाहिए एक दूसरे के साथ, और दूसरों के बच्चों के साथ भी कंपेयर नहीं करना चाहिए. बोथ आर इक्वली डेंजरस एंड बैड एंड इट कॉजेस डैमेज टू द चिल्ड्रन. ओके. अगला चीज जो जोसेफ जेकब का परिवार में प्रॉब्लम था. ओके, आपको ये सब ध्यान रखना है. मीन्स दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग्स दैट आर कमिंग आउट इन द चैप्टर 37 ऑफ जेनेसिस. पेरेंटल अटेंशन. पेरेंटल अटेंशन का मतलब क्या है? ध्यान बच्चे पे जो रहना चाहिए वो नहीं रहेगा तो बहुत नुकसान हो सकता है. बच्चों का जिंदगी बर्बाद हो सकता है. जेकब का परिवार में पेरेंटल अटेंशन नहीं था. ओके. बहुत बार हमारे भी घरों में ऐसे ही होता है ना. हमारे बच्चे झगड़ा करके आते हैं, छोटे हैं तभी बाहर जाते हैं, मारपीट होता है, तो हम किसके ऊपर विश्वास रखेगा? अपना ही बच्चा सही है ना. वो पेरेंट उसका बच्चे के बारे में सही सोचता रहेगा, लेकिन हम लोग भी हमारे बच्चे को ही सही सोचते हैं. एंड वो गलत है करके सोचेगा भी नहीं. प्रॉब्लम उसमें है कि हम लोग आगे जाके देखते भी नहीं सही क्या है गलत क्या है. ओके. हाउ डू वी नो? जेकब्स अटेंशन वाज नॉट देयर. हम इधर उधर से नहीं बात कर रहे हैं. जेनेसिस 37 में कहां पे लिखा है? भूल गया? वेदर ओके, बट वो तो सब जानवर का पेट काट के देखना पड़ता था जेकब को, बहुत मुश्किल टेस्ट दे दिया आपने. There was no way he could have checked. He believed him, his sons. But there is another thing, no? शुरुआत में क्या होता है? जोसेफ कंप्लेंट लाता है ना, बिला के एंड हु इज दैट अदर वन, जिल्फा ना, उनका बच्चों के बारे में कुछ तो कंप्लेंट लाता है. जेकब का कुछ भी एक्शन नहीं है. आप पढ़ेगा तो वहां पे कुछ भी मेंशन नहीं है. वो सुनता है एक कान से, दूसरा कान से छोड़ देता है. वेरी डेंजरस. ओके, बिलीव, टेक एक्शन, अटेंशन इज रिक्वायर्ड. ग्रोइंग चिल्ड्रन, सुधा सुबह से पूरा दिन कम से कम 15-20 चक्कर काटती है. कहाँ पे सुधा? वेरी गो 15-20 टाइम्स इन अ डे. फिर सुधा या where she is hiding. You don't go balcony. The two balconies. Not outside. Plants, when you have to grow and make them grow nicely, what you do? Constant attention you give. Then only it will grow properly. When sister came now, we asked how your balcony ka plants are growing so well. Ours is becoming like Egypt ka famine. No? All the plants become thin, skinny and die. Okay. So we keep watching and we give so much attention and pain to it. है ना? Sudha will keep dipping her finger into the soil also to see mud. Wet है क्या, over wet है क्या, dry है क्या है. Her hand has become like a thermometer only now. Okay. So with children also, parents have to have that. If they get feedback also, no, you should give some attention to what feedback is coming. Not always your child will be right. Okay. Many times your child might be the source of the problem. Okay. Children were falling into sin. Their actions were hidden from parents. They were doing all side by side. Only one person was coming and telling, that was Joseph, and they did not listen to him. बच्चा था ना वो भी. So even parents were treating him as children. Okay. What action did Jacob and his wife take about the reports they got? Nothing. Okay. It was a large family and टूटा हुआ परिवार था. एक भाई दूसरा भाई के ऊपर विश्वास नहीं करता था, है ना. Reuben asked them to throw Joseph into the pit so that he can rescue. Without telling others, he will rescue. Others, without asking him, they sold him. Okay. So this family was very interesting. Every single person did what he wanted. They were together. एक ही परिवार था. That is what is a dysfunctional family. एक ही परिवार था लेकिन एक परिवार नहीं है उन लोग. Each sibling did what was right. Okay, you can see their actions in chapter 37. And parents did nothing about it. उनको तो दिखता ही था ना, 12 बच्चे लोग घर में है, 2 बच्चा है तो भी झगड़ा बहुत, पूरा दिन तुमको देखना पड़ता है. तो 12 लोग झगड़ा करने का टाइम कितना ध्यान देना पड़ता रहेगा ना. लेकिन उन लोगों ने दिया ही नहीं वो ध्यान. ओके. एक बहन का नाम दिया है डीना. ओके. लिया का बेटी था करके लिखा है. शी वाज द डॉटर. And Genesis 34:1-5 says his daughter Dinah went alone to visit the home of her pagan friends, and there she met Shechem, who talked tenderly to her and ultimately raped her. Okay. क्यों हुआ ये इंसिडेंट? हर पेरेंट को ध्यान रखना चाहिए. मैं जो अभी जो आगे ये स्लाइड में जो दिखता है, What does it tell her of her mother's influence on her life? उसकी माँ के बारे में क्या बता सकता है? आप सोचिए, उसका जीवन में प्रोटेक्ट कौन करना चाहिए था सबसे ज्यादा? उसका मदर. ओके. बट उसका रिलेशनशिप क्या था? Should she have stopped her? Think about it. और भी 2-3 चीज इसमें ही आएगा. Many mothers just play along. They undermine the headship role of their husband by supporting wrong behaviors of their daughters. Wrong way of dressing, wrong way of behaving, wrong things that the daughters are doing, they allow it to happen under their nose, and they also stop their husbands from speaking out. Be very careful. After the child gets into trouble, you will not be able to help. Okay? At the right time, it has to be. ये घर दोनों परिवार के बारे में भी सोच सकते हैं आप. This was the home, that is Shechem's house, no? Was the house from which Jacob bought a piece of land. Okay? Last week we saw, no? El Elohe Israel, great or mighty God of Israel करके एक altar बना के जेकब ने उसको नाम दिया. ओके, एल एलोहे इजराइल, जेनेसिस 33:18-20 में दिया. ओके, किसके पास से खरीदा? हैमोर बोलते हैं, हैमोर हैमोर वो शेकेम का फादर था. ओके, so these two families had interaction. Okay, if you read only this chapter, you will not know. If you go 2-3 chapters before, you can see this is not the first time. ऐसा नहीं है कि she went to that village and she became friends. These two families were interacting a lot before. Okay, did Jacob's long time closeness to this family, pagan family, lower his daughter's guard and give opportunities for Shechem to get close to her? Okay, ये दोनों परिवार जो नजदीक आ रहे थे, उसके कारण शेकेम फायदा उठा सकता था क्या? सोचिए आप, आपके मन में. Okay, I am not saying we should not be close to non-Christians, but the care, that watch, parental awareness, parental closeness to what is happening in a child's life has to be there. Children also should be frank and open, but at the same time, parents are more responsible, because children, like we saw in the last week, no, in their teenagers, their amygdala is very active, 100% active, and prefrontal cortex develop हो रहा है in their youth days. They take wrong decisions. They plunge into decisions. Love at first sight. Everything will come. Okay. It has to be the parents who have to control. That's why I asked the question, no? What is the mother's role in a daughter's being raised properly? Think about it. Every parent has to think about it. तो सिमियन एंड लेवी, अभी पूरा परिवार का बारे में डिसफंक्शनल फैमिली बोला तो क्या आप समझ सकते हैं? सिमियन और लेवी क्या किया?
Murdered Shechem
And then
murdered these men of Shechem.
they murdered. How they murdered? It was premeditated murder, ना? The worst form, the highest sentence होता है ना human court में, वो था, because they planned it. Okay. हम लोग ऑनर किलिंग के बारे में पढ़ता है ना सब जगह में. ओके, वैसे ही था ये. सिमियन एंड लेवी, दे प्लान्ड एन ऑनर किलिंग. उनका सिस्टर के ऑनर के लिए they planned the killing of Shechem, Hamor, and all the people of that village. Okay, they set a trap. They told, we will become part of you if you get circumcised. Okay, so they did that, and those people had no realization. They got circumcised so that they could mingle with these people. Okay, but the parents, think about it, had no idea this disaster was being planned under their very noses. है ना? उनके घर के अंदर ही बैठ के सब प्लानिंग हो रहा है, क्या करना है. लेकिन दोनों, all the parents are not aware what is happening under their nose. These people murdered all the men, looted their homes, and took all the bereaved women and children as captives. उनका बहन तो एक ही था, लड़की जिसको तकलीफ हुआ था. इन लोगों ने जो किया, पूरा गांव का, शहर का स्त्रियों को विधवा बना दिया और उनको कैप्टिव भी लेके आया. Okay, they didn't leave them. So what kind of evil they had planned, and the parents did not do. Does tit for tat revenge make it right? Okay, जो गलती हुआ था दीना के जीवन में, वो सीधा हो गया ये बदला लेके. Did it become right? It won't. Many times as parents, we also take revenge on others. No, be very careful about this revenge thing. It will not end anywhere. Okay. Did it remove her pain, hurt, shame, gloom about the future? It didn't. ओके, बदला लेने से कुछ नहीं होता है. ओके, वुड शी हैव मैरिड बाद में, ये ट्रॉमा होने के बाद, और वो ट्रॉमा के साथ इतना मर्डर्स और ये सब होने के बाद, डू यू थिंक शी वुड हैव मैरिड? बाइबल डजंट टॉक अबाउट हर मैरिज एट ऑल. Might have got married. I'm just asking questions. How would she have lived the rest of her life? उसका आगे का जिंदगी का क्या हुआ रहेगा? The rape was one thing, but the trauma created by her brothers, was terrible. Jacob was also terrified. Now all our neighbors will come after us करके. Jacob was also frightened about his neighbors, that they are a minority and now it will be trouble. Okay. Then we read about Reuben. एक एक करके ना उनका घर में सब प्रॉब्लमेटिक कैरेक्टर्स है, सब बच्चे. ओके, दैट इज व्हाई आई सेड पेरेंट्स शुड हैव वॉच्ड. ओके, रूबन क्या करता है? उसका पिताजी का वाइफ के साथ ही रिलेशनशिप रखता है. ओके, इवन इन नॉन क्रिश्चियन वर्ल्ड दिस विल बी अ रेयर थिंग दैट समथिंग लाइक दिस हैपनिंग, but here it is happening right under the nose of these people. Okay, Bilhah, with whom he had the relationship, is the mother of Dan and Naphtali. Okay, two tribes would come from these two boys. Okay, but what respect would Dan and Naphtali have had for their own mother? आप सोचिए, उसका मम्मी जब भी इस तरह का जिंदगी जी रही थी, and what they would have thought about their, I think, uncle, no? Or what did he come to? Brother. Yeah, their brother, their elder brother. What respect they would have had. Okay, and what kind of morals the younger brothers would have had from these senior brothers like this. Okay, Jacob's actions on this horrifying act are not even stated because he has done nothing about it, except when he finally blesses the 12 children. No? At that time, he makes a mention of it. Otherwise, he glosses over it. Okay, be very careful. It's not easy to play a role to handle problems like this. We can tell Jacob ने नहीं किया, but खुद का घर में आग लगता है तभी you will know it is difficult. Okay, but Jacob made no attempt to set things right. More sexual misconduct. Who's that? Judah, from whom the messianic line came. Okay, after his wife died, he went to have a relationship with a prostitute. Okay, that's what he thought. It was a prostitute. When he went on a work trip, okay, he went to shear sheep in another town. At that time, he did it. I'm using modern terminology so that you put things in your perspective. Okay, he did all this with the active help of a pagan friend. हाँ, वो अकेला भी नहीं किया ये पाप. उसने एक दोस्त को लिया, एडुलामाइट था वो, उसका मदद लेके उसने किया. And the prostitute turns out to be Tamar, his daughter-in-law. Okay, and he has double standards. When he hears that Tamar is pregnant, he wants her to be killed. इतना self righteous है वो, लेकिन वो खुद prostitute के पास जाने के लिए वो गलत नहीं सोचता है. Okay, two of his sons, and Onan, also died due to sexual sins, like their father. Like father, like son. There is a English proverb, isn't it? Like father, like son. So many misconducts that we do, seen or unseen in our lives, no? Seen or unseen, impacts our children. Be very careful. Okay? Flirting in the office, your children may not see you, but you'll still pay a price with your kids. Okay? He was a direct ancestor of our Messiah, but that was it. Okay? They were heartless and cruel, all these brothers. How do we know? Later on, when they face Joseph, they don't know it's Joseph when they go to Egypt during the famine. Okay? But this incident is before that, in Genesis 37. After throwing Joseph into the cistern, they sat down to eat. खास खाने के लिए बैठा उन लोग. How could they eat? When they had just stripped his brother, own brother, and thrown him into a cistern, and he was crying. But they were heartless like that. Judah coaxed his brothers to make some money. Instead of killing, let's sell him off. Okay, see the brothers, how they are heartless and cruel. Later on, when they meet Joseph, they don't know it's Joseph. They make this statement. Okay, surely we are being punished because of our brother. Genesis 42:21. We saw how distressed he was when he pleaded with us for his life. उसका जान के लिए वो प्ली कर रहा था, तभी कितना उसका डिस्ट्रेस को क्या बोलेगा? परेशान, कितना परेशान वो बन गया था. ओके, परेशान हुआ था उन लोग जो कर रहा था वो चीज को देख के. ओके, बट ही वुड नॉट लिसन, बट वी वुड नॉट लिसन. हम सुना नहीं उसको. दैट्स व्हाई दिस डिस्ट्रेस हैज कम अपॉन हिम. 22 years it took for them to realize this. When they were in trouble, that time they realized that their brother they had put through difficult situations. Okay, many times between siblings and in the family, there are heartless acts, heartless and thoughtless words that are spoken, that are intended to hurt. Okay, sharper than the knife. Okay, daggers out in many homes, and we hurt each other. Okay, be very careful. Jacob's family is a warning for us about what we should not become. Okay, it was a dysfunctional family. Do you know any other family like this, dysfunctional in the Bible?
David.
Huh?
David.
David's family. Okay. Any other? Huh?
Abraham.
Abraham's family. Yeah. Anyway, we'll come to those slides little later on if we get time. If Jacob's family is living next door to you, अभी सोचने की बात है ना, अभी सोचना है आपको इसके बारे में. क्या आपके बच्चों को उनके साथ खेलने के लिए छोड़ेगा? Huh? Think twice. है? हम लोग we read Romans 9, Jacob chosen, God loved and all. No? Be very careful about how we interpret those things. It has nothing to do with salvation. Okay? God had no choice. Esau, Jacob, any person living on the world, if you choose, they were as bad as these people only. Okay? You would have thought twice. If they were part of your church, will you break bread with them? With what? Reuben, Judah, Levi, Simeon, what all they did, you know? If you look at it, will you break bread with them? Think about it. Will you let them minister God's word? Huh?
Never to hear the word of God.
Okay. Is yours a dysfunctional family? ये पूछना, ये आपको सोचना है अभी. Okay. A dysfunctional family is a family where there is a pattern of conflict, misbehavior, and often abuse or neglect of children. Okay. There are many things to a dysfunctional family. Conflicts, misbehavior with one another. Okay. The love and tenderness which should be there between each other is missing, and often there is abuse and neglect of children or of different people. You know, these photos are very capturing the thing. What happens when parents fight? Think about it. Okay. Symptoms. What are some of the symptoms in a dysfunctional family? You know, we have seen that in Jacob's home. So we can summarize it. Lack of communication. They are not talking to each other. Little or no empathy. Empathy means love for each other. थोड़ा या कुछ भी नहीं. You know, प्यार जो बोलता है एक दूसरे के साथ रहना चाहिए. Unpredictability. People behave in unpredictable manner. Okay. Excessive criticism. Substance abuse. I've added that, but it's not necessarily in this thing. Siblings fighting each other. A favorite or a scapegoat. You know, किसी को बकरा बना देता है. You know, एक परिवार में हर प्रॉब्लम उसके कारण ही है बताते हैं. ओके. बाउंड्री वायलेशंस, डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस, एक दूसरे को मारते हैं. ओके. हस्बैंड वाइफ. देयर वाज वन colleague of mine, no? He was a boy. He used to come and cry. He used to tell, my wife beats me every day. Okay, don't think that abuse is only a husband beating his wife because she's weaker. In many homes, it is the other way around also. Okay, people keeping secrets and not telling each other. Okay, all my passwords are there in the home. There is no password that I have kept for my mail ID or whatever it is. All my children, my wife, all can see it. Okay, that's how you should be. You should want to do it. Nothing to hide should be there. Threats to abandon you or actually abandoning you. धमकी देना घर में कि मैं भगा दूंगा आपको घर से या मैं घर से भाग जाऊंगा. Children telling, no, all these are things. Tense relationships, yelling and screaming, feeling forced to accept negative treatment. Uh, there's lot of this thing, but pressure being put to make that person accept, even though wrong is being done to that person. No open space to express thoughts and feelings. सब कुछ dictatorship जैसा चलता है घर में. So all these are symptoms of a dysfunctional home. उसका impact क्या होता है? Low self-esteem. People growing in such a home will never have a proper self-image. They will never feel truly that they are created in the image of God. Okay, they will have a damaged perspective of themselves. They will have a lot of negative talk about themselves. Okay, about all the sufferings they had at the hands of their brothers, their uncles, aunts, aunties, parents, neighbors, whatever it may be. There will be a lot of negative emotional turmoil will be there, lack of confidence, feeling unworthy, unlovable, or like the black sheep of the family. That's how it will be. Okay. Each member contributed to the mess. ये परिवार में हर व्यक्ति वो जो परेशानी था उनका घर में वो उसका भागीदार था उन लोग. Okay, they did what they wanted. God also did not stop any of them. Why? Because they are accountable for their sins. Okay, they have the same kind of exposure to different things, but they are accountable for it also. But God wove a masterpiece out of the impending mess. Okay, every person was contributing to the disaster, but God worked out a beautiful uh, situation out of all this mess that each of them was putting through. He made his choice before they made theirs. They kept making choices in their life which was wrong and bad, but he made it good for them. Okay, we too are chosen before the foundation of the world. That is what the Bible says. Okay, Ephesians 1:4 में क्या लिखा है? For he chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in his sight. Okay, he chose us in him. Jesus is the way back to God. Okay, and it is only through the Lord Jesus Christ that you can come back to God when you have this broken relationship with him. Okay, God chose Jacob and his progeny for his messianic purposes. They were no better than any human beings. Okay, read Romans 9:14 to 15. That is why Paul tells, what then shall we say? Is God unjust? Not at all. For he says to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I have mercy. I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. Okay. God had to show this family his love, his compassion. Okay. So that the Messiah could be brought through this line. Okay. Mercy and compassion for sinful man is at the heart of the election of Israel or Jacob. Okay. Purpose of Israel, we had seen this verse, we will repeat it again. The people of Israel, theirs is the adoption to sonship, divine glory, the covenants, the receiving of the law, the temple worship, and the promises. There's the patriarchs, and from them is traced the human ancestry of the Messiah, who is God over all. A broken family, a destroyed family, okay? But they were chosen so that, ultimately they will become the ancestors of the Messiah. Okay, we will end with that because we have finished our time. Next week we will continue with the remaining aspects of we will continue with the remaining aspects that we have left out from this passage. So we will continue with Genesis 37 only next week also.